Andrew Cruz, and I'll be delivering an informative speech on teen suicide. Every year in the USA alone, thousands of teenagers commit suicide. The American Academy of Adolescent Psychiatry puts suicide as the third leading cause of death in people of 15 to 24 years of age. But what does all this really mean? If you hadn't had anyone close to you commit suicide, then how can you truly know the toll it takes on everyone involved? Unfortunately, there is no protection for anyone from this harsh reality. 1 in 4 teens seriously contemplate suicide at one point in their young lives. Now, imagine that for every 4 teens you know, one of them has contemplated suicide. Now imagine that they didn't just contemplate it, but attempted it. As you can see, this reality is not far away. Ultimately, it is up to you to protect those you love from committing these grave mistakes. But in order for you to do so, you have to know the signs to look for. Teens contemplate suicide for a number of reasons, namely those going through societal pressure, dealing with family discontent, or those with psychological disorders. Probably the most publicized cause for suicide today is the societal pressure aspect. Many times we see it on the news. A teen commits suicide after being bullied over something about him that it is seen as odd or weird to the bully. However, there are also other forms of societal pressure. These include those of us who are dealing with our sexual orientation, those who are feeling socially isolated, and those who hold low opinions of themselves compared to their peers. In a time of our lives where we are still discovering ourselves, all of these feelings are fairly common. This is where we as friends and parents must be there for each other. Most of the times, those of us who are feeling depressed due to societal pressure are just feeling alone with no one who cares about them. Just doing your part and listening to a friend, or creating an atmosphere at home where a child feels comfortable talking to you about sensitive issues is all you have to do to help this epidemic, stem the epidemic of teen suicide. Establishing a comfortable at-home relationship with your family leads us into the next primary issue of teen suicide, family issues at home. In this time of reinventing themselves, teenagers need something steady to keep them grounded. For most teens, that is a steady family who they know cares about them. But in today's fast-paced and hectic society, stable families are becoming harder and harder to come by. Families dealing with divorce, having moved long distances, or suffering financial difficulties are many causes for depression in teens. However, teens that have poor relationships with their parents exacerbate any of these situations to even worse levels. That is why having a good at-home relationship is paramount to a teen's health and well-being. Perhaps more subtle than either of the above causes for teen suicide, however, are those teens who are suffering from any number of psychological disorders. These signs require a keen eye to notice sometimes, but other times they are apparent signs that are ignored or dismissed. These disorders, bipolar disorder, depression, etc., can be very bad for a teen's mental health, and it is important that they be diagnosed and treated as early as possible. If you notice your child is exhibiting any of these signs, and especially if your family has a history of such disorders, it is your job to seek out professional help and diagnosis. This cause can be hard to notice and sometimes difficult to deal with, but with the correct medical help, it can be much more manageable and ultimately better for the teen's overall well-being. It may seem like your teenage years were a long time ago, and it may be hard to imagine what life was like then. From personal experience, I can tell you it's hard. But what you may consider troubling, us teens can consider egregious. Teenagers lack the years of experience that assure us that no matter how hard today might be, there will always be a brighter tomorrow to start again. As their parents, it rests on you to guard your children and nurture an environment where they can feel safe and loved. As a friend, it is your duty to look out for those you care about. It is your job to notice the signs of depression and assist your children and friends in dealing with it. And most importantly, never put off dealing with suicide until tomorrow, because when it comes to those who are depressed, there's not always a promise of them being around tomorrow. Thank you.